there is definitely something interesting about not having an agenda, whether it's whatever you're doing.
Yeah, sure.
Well, yeah, why do we have agendas at all? Or intentions? Is an agenda a form of control?
You know, it was interesting that you asked me. Sometimes I just doesn't really come sure of why I'm doing anything. It's just like, oh, even if I'm aware of like why I'm doing, I'm not really sure if that make any difference.
Maybe you just don't need to think about it anymore. That's why you don't. I think for lots of things in lots of arenas, it's probably a very good thing. But when it comes to certain, habits, it's interesting to think, well, it's interesting to think why you don't know. not that it's bad to not, but just to, oh, I'm drinking a beer. I don't know why. Be interesting to inquire into it.
Yeah, like we are having this conversation. I mean, you would have an idea why we are doing it. I don't really have any idea.
I don't have any idea why we're doing it.
Yeah, you can't really have any idea about all the things for sure, but it's just good to
But it's like
about certain bits, like why you are doing it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like yesterday when I was speaking to the artist, and he was saying that, he gets feedback from people, and often people like the ones which he doesn't like at all. He doesn't know why he's doing it. Once it's done, it's no longer about him and what he thinks of it. It's actually really insignificant what he thinks of it. You can make something and intend it to be a certain way, but what reality actually makes it to be is always different to that intention.
Yeah, sure.
Always. Imagine if you sat down and spoke to, a music artist about what their songs mean to them. There'd be a very different, potentially personal meaning to them, but it has also a collective meaning for everyone. Like everyone gets the same similar feelings, don't they?
Yeah.
From certain things, or you watch certain films and people cry at the same points, even if maybe it wasn't intended to be that, or maybe it was. There's a to me, it does seem increasingly important that if something you feel to create something or express something or do something, that it comes from like a universal place of just wanting it to become expressed, to be manifest. It doesn't really care. It's not personal. It doesn't really mind who's doing it.
Yeah.
Like whether I do it or you do it, from a universal perspective, it's not really bothered. It just needs to come into being.
Yeah, sure.
Have you ever had that in your life where you thought, oh, this is a really good idea, you haven't done it, and then like you thought about it, like maybe seriously or not seriously, like months later, a year later, and then you search and it's been done.
Mm-hmm.
Like it drops down into reality or to like thoughts, and it wants to be manifest, and it just wants someone to do it, the first person to be willing to do it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously implementing the manifestations, like for me personally, since I moved to Bristol, I'm like, oh well, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna try surfing, I'm gonna go fishing, and just like I've got so many ideas, but it's just about in this mundane life, just being office to work and work to office. It's just like
Yeah, I think
know?
sometimes when we don't know where to start, I think we just need to start. Just
Yeah,
start
sure.
somewhere. Like, you know, like I was saying to you, all the interest earlier, like you can't do all of them at the same time. Not really. You kind of have to master one thing, and then that's in your repertoire, and then you start another thing and master that, you know. But you can have similar things at the same time, because it's not like you go surfing every day, right? You could play squash 2 or 3 times a week and then go surfing once a month. You know, it's not that you have to be like, I'm only ever going to do surfing. But you can't, if you were just like, right, I want to do all of it in one go, like all today, it would be crazy. You couldn't do it. So you just have to begin somewhere. And I think most people just don't begin at all because they get overwhelmed with knowing where to start.
Yeah.
You know, they have all these ideas. I mean, I was like that for years. I didn't do anything for years because I was like, well, I'm interested in interior design, I'm interested in painting or talking or tattoos or whatever else. So then you don't begin, but you just have to begin somewhere. You know, do it badly. Like, well, not even badly, you just do it.
Yeah.
Like to us, this conversation we're having now might seem relatively kind of like, seems kind of wish-wash and wavy, but people listening might really resonate with it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing, like often it's videos or art that you think nothing of that suddenly it pops off because there's just like a different, I don't know how it works, like things blossom when they need to, like life just has its own way of, what's the word, sorting itself out.
Yeah.
All you're doing is helping it come through and releasing it, and then beyond that you don't need to worry about anything, like how many views it's getting or how many subscribers you have, or you know, surfing's a good one. Like you might learn to be really good to surf and you become really good at it,
Yeah.
and no one even knows, like you could not tell anyone, like
Yeah, that's the most intriguing part. I really find that, you know, you can actually be good at something and not really seeking that validation from people at all.
yeah, like lots of people, like you think they're quite ordinary, and then you get to know them a bit, and then they'll show you like an amazing painting, and you're like, how are you doing this? You know, how like they just do it sometimes. I'm like, that's incredible, but they have no interest in showing people. I mean, that's the thing, each expression has its own space and own dimension. Some art needs to be seen and by others, you know, it's important, but then if you just want it for yourself, it's, you know, it's not bad, or one's not better than the other. If you look behind you, there's the red deer.
Oh fuck! I haven't got my gun. Where's my shotgun?
Pardon me.
That looks so sick.
But I was also thinking about this, like, I think on YouTube you can post things where it's just private. So like, you could have a series of these conversations, I could post this on my YouTube as a private thing.
What do you mean private?
So it means that like no one can see it but you. And then I could share it to you and you could watch it, but it's a private link. You couldn't share that link to someone else.
Ah, interesting.
So it means it's still out there, it still has a purpose, and it's something I've been thinking about for ages, like having an Instagram or whatever it is for you, like a notebook or whatever, where it's just for you. Like you just have an Instagram just for you. Like you might post pictures of your body to show progression, or you know, your hair loss, or you know, your outfits, right? It's just for you. It's just like your own personal journal to look back on and listen to.
Yeah, I think that's a really good platform to just express yourself in a way.
Because like not all things have to be out.
Yeah.
Like again, like we found out through this conversation that we're having now and recording, that maybe it won't go onto like the YouTube of like what I was maybe thinking about when we sat down and filmed it.
Yeah.
Like, so that's the thing, we have intention, and then we realize as time goes on that reality actually has its own agenda way beyond what we want it to be. Maybe we just post this and it's private, and then you can listen back to it, and it seems different and it has a different energy because you're involved in it. You can hear your own voice, and then it stems something for you, you know. So
yeah,
yeah, it's interesting, and not having an agenda. It's good to just get some things moving, you know, just begin, because then it gets it moving. Like maybe this doesn't go on my YouTube, but it helps me process things and think about, oh look, they're having a fight.
Oh, they're just having a cuddle.
You know, process some things and get some thoughts out before they need to be done. But it is interesting in you being here and things not coming, is like, for me, at least, I don't know if it'll always change, it's hard to know, but my ability to say the things that I do on my YouTube, I've noticed I can't actually do when there's other people there. That's why there's no one ever around me.
Yeah.
Or I prefer to do it inside, you know, a room where there's no one can hear me, even if there's someone in the house. Like if we were in the house in Cornwall and you were upstairs and I knew you could hear me, it changes something for me.
Sure.
It's like you change your behavior if you know you're being watched.
Yeah.
There's something about that, you know. I don't know if that changes or goes. I assume that it probably does. I think at some point in time I'd probably be able to speak in front of a group of people. But then even then, like if you listen to say Ram Dass or Alan Watts and he has having these discourses, it's like, you know, they're like 40, 50 years old, you know what I mean? Like the public talks from Kay, they don't come out till he's like 50 in terms of like being filmed, and that has a different thing. You know, back then they talk in groups, but they're not being filmed, and being filmed is different, right?
Yeah.
Has a different energy to it. And also what I was going to say is, in those things, there's people asking questions. And again, if we were in a group and I said, if you were sat in a group of like 20 people or even 5 people, and I said, oh, any questions, you'd probably be more readily come up with a question because it doesn't feel like you're on the spot.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like it doesn't. Whereas if I say Archit and I look at you, got any questions? It's suddenly that part of you feels very like on the spot. Like it's a, you know, I need to ask a good question. I need to ask the right question or whatever it is. So yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, not all things have to go on the same thing. Everything has its place, right? Like this video could just be like a different, like, because I've got 2 YouTube accounts. One's like my personal. This could just go on personal, and it's just for friends and stuff to like hear about conversations. They're not for, you know, for the wider audience, because you have to get through and like process things. You know, like think, say, like a footballer like Cristiano Ronaldo. Think how many times he's practiced like shooting or his tricks, whatever, behind closed eyes that he's not showing to the world before he can do it on the main stage, right?
Yeah, sure.
And that has probably the most value.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a pure form, and then that helps you to inform other things, and it's like a backwards and forwards, a to and fro of these things to understand. Pardon me. Because it is hard at the beginning to know agenda and having intention. You know, at some point I'd like to have, like, you know, like I've said for ages, like a podcast. And that is true, but I'm like, I don't even know what it would be. You know, the fact that the thought's still there means something wants to be expressed, but what it is, I've got absolutely no idea. Like, is it, I mean, to me, I'd probably just like to interview people and learn about them.
Yeah.
Like nothing to do, or maybe it does have something to do, but it's not designed to be about anything spiritual or anything like that. It's just getting to know them. Like, oh, tell me about yourself, you know, giving them, and that links to that, like those soul exploration, the space to unravel sessions where I just want to hear about people's stories, because I think for most people, they go through their whole life without really having a space to be heard. Not just about the bad things, you know, I don't really want to focus on those things. Not that they, you know, you oppose them and say, you know, don't do it, but the intention is like, tell me about the joyful things you would like to do. You know, let's focus on what you want to do and putting your energy into that, rather than just solely processing the darkness, which is probably, again, like another acknowledgement to myself, where I probably needed that. It seems as I get older, I'm increasingly becoming the person and offering to other people what I wanted and needed, but I just didn't know or I didn't see or find. So yeah, Anyway, I think we should get going because I'm fucking cold now.
Ciao.
Ciao. Ciao. I think that came because